Hey folks, welcome back. It's closing table time again. So excited to be back with you, my boy Ben Hawkins. We are proudly presented by Lend with Ben and the Ocean Air Realty. Folks, we're ready to hit the ground running today. Ben, pull up a chair. It's the closing table. You ready to go, brother?
I got my pen full of ink and I'm ready to rock. And it's a blue pen too, so we're good.
You got to have the blue pen. We got to know those lenders are picky and those attorneys too. All right, here we go. Something new, brother. Carolina hired a coach, but they didn't hire a college coach. They hired an NBA coach. What's your take on this? Big deal? Not a big deal? A lot of other institutions get flack for hiring an assistant coach from college, not a head coach. How about hiring an NBA coach that's never coached as a head coach in college? What's your take?
I mean, Mike Malone, I think this is a slam dunk, and it caught me by surprise. You know, historically, North Carolina likes to stay within the family and all that kind of stuff, as they say. But I guess technically this guy is family because his daughter plays volleyball at UNC. So, you know, he's now, hold on. You got to be fair, Mr. Wolfpack. You got to be fair. He is a part of Tar Heel Nation. I mean, just listen, Doug, I wasn't going to say much to you on this topic because, to be honest with you, the hire that you guys made, I was kind of like, you know, whatever. This is a slam dunk, bro. Mike Malone, NBA champion with the Denver Nuggets, got fired, and they weren't doing poorly. Like it kind of came out of nowhere. But a year or two after they won the championship. But my whole thing is like the way that college basketball is structured these days with NIL money, constant movement, and having to refill your coffers with players each year. All that kind of stuff that comes with the NIL landscape of college basketball. I think it behooves somebody to bring in a person that's been able to manage paid players in the manner that he has at a pro level. Plus, I mean, who better to learn from? The guy's got to have a ton of pro connections still. He knows what it takes to get it done in the NBA. He's won a world championship. I just think this is a masterful hire. I think they hit it out of the park. And that's just my take on it, Doug. I think it's a big thumbs up.
Well, you know, sometimes your seventh option can work out. I guess that we will see. I thought it was really interesting that it sounds like he was at practices a lot last year. You know, his daughter's on campus already. He even spoke to that. Apparently, Hubert called and, you know, gave him congratulations. I mean, obviously, it's important. He cares a lot about the school, not only as a former coach, but as a player. You know, I will always say that it's better when all the teams in the triangle are competitive. It's better for ACC. It's better for college basketball. So, you know, I hope they got somebody who's not going to be a complete dumpster fire, maybe a little bit of a dumpster fire. I don't know if Jokic has any eligibility left. He really only had success with that dude on his team as a head coach in the NBA. We'll see. You know, we had a former NBA head coach one time, didn't really work out that well. So I'm not sure just the fact that you've been in the NBA translates that well to college. But we'll see. At least everybody's in place now. And now we can start talking about what's happening in the portal. You know, I think, honestly, to be honest with you, coaching is important in a different way now than it was before because all these schools have really big NIL budgets, and the Carolinas and the states of the world, as well as the Michigans, I mean, based on what people are saying, are $12-14 million plus. So regardless of how good you can coach, can you find the right players, even if you're giving them a boatload of money? And that's really where the coaching comes in. It's about identifying the right players, the right fit, maybe not just throwing a bunch of money at somebody. We saw how that's worked out before, not necessarily great. So this whole different world that we're in right now is really interesting. And I agree with you, from all candor aside, having somebody who's used to managing personalities that are worth hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars in some cases can be a really big difference maker. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out.
Absolutely. And Jokic, by the way, Doug, Jokic is still on fire. The dude is a walking triple-double. I think he's averaging
he's a monster.
My dad follows him religiously, and therefore I started following him a whole lot. And dude's unreal. He's the best player he's the best player in the world. And I don't think there's any debate to that.
All right, so let's move it.
Slam dunk hire, Doug.
All right, let's go. Let's move on to your approved. Mortgage rates are back up, but we got some good news earlier this week. They've creeped back down a little bit. Oil went way up, as we know what's going on in Iran, slipped after the announcement 2 days ago, kind of holding steady up and down within the same range. Last I looked, futures are still under $100. That's a great sign. Ben, you said last week one of your big things you're going to be paying attention to going forward are two things, rates and oil. Tell me what you're seeing and what your takeaways are on your end.
So on the last show, to be fair, Doug, I said I was going to get away from all that for about a week, just enjoy Easter. But
politics, yes, but we know you're watching this.
Well, I have to watch rates. But like, I watched my bank account dwindle as I filled up with gas to drive to Kentucky there and back. It's a 696-mile drive. Cost me double what it normally would. It's a disgrace. I think with we got this. They got the ceasefire thing going on here right now. The Strait of Hormuz is a big piece of this. From my perspective, we've already gone in and done what we've done. Just take the oil. Just take it, be done. Let's move on with this, and let's get back to life as normal. I mean, I don't understand what we're doing exactly. I just, it's like we're going to go in and blast you, regime change, and now it's okay. We're going to let Iran operate the Strait of Hormuz. Well, in good faith, they haven't done anything in good faith in 50 years. So I don't know. I'm tired of the games. The sooner we get this behind us and get this over with, things can start to get back to normal with fuel prices coming down, interest rates coming down. We didn't see a lot of movement with rates coming down at all last week. And we saw a little bit based on the opportunity for this Iran conflict to be over with. But I mean, today the 10-year's back up a little bit. I think before I walked in to do the show, it was down just a hair. But I mean, rates are still far better than they were a year ago. It's just, right now we're having to deal with some of this pain. So the ceasefire is a good step forward, I guess. I don't know. I'm kind of at this point of the mindset of let's go in there, get this thing over with, and just knock it out of the park and be done. I've had enough.
I think we will both agree that we're not approving this being protracted. Find a way to end it and move on. We've got far too many other important things that we need to focus on, which, both I know you and I have been proponents of from the very beginning, not only of this administration, but going back years and years. Take care of business at home. There's always going to be stuff we need to focus on abroad, but at the end of the day, we need to do what's going to focus on impacting people here more than anything else. So let's move on, though, to On the Hunt. Speaking of On the Hunt, we talked about it a little bit earlier. The transfer portal has opened in college basketball, and holy crap, it is insanity. I saw one of the figures I saw was 80%, nearly 2,000 people had entered the portal, 80% of rosters, 80%. So we've moved beyond like the elite players, the top players being in the portal. We're almost to the point where only 20% of kids are even returning to a school year after year. We've talked about this before. I think these new numbers are even more staggering than anything that we've thought of before. Beyond college basketball, NC State had a former national champion wrestler enter the portal, who was a national champion 2 years ago as a freshman, entered the portal. So we're not just talking about revenue sports anymore. It's trickling down into the Olympic sports. What do you think?
I think it's out of control. I mean, again, I liked college basketball back in the days when they would recruit young players out of high school. You'd see them grow and develop in the system that they're under. Now it's just a free for all. Everybody's, putting their name in the transfer portal to try to obtain the highest and best bid, highest and best offer, Doug, right? You know what I mean? It seems like that's where we're at. I've also, you made a comment in the first segment about the NIL money that's been spent, and you're better off to bring in players that are going to be conducive with your system as a coach, that play well together, have a continuity together. I watched Kentucky as an example spend over $20 million on their roster last year. They were a second round exit in the NCAA tournament, and they were mid-level SEC team. I use that as an example to say the money doesn't always work. You've got to be very smart about how you do this. Plus, I mean, it's like Louisville. We went and got Mikel Brown Jr., one of the best point guards in the country, as a freshman, and he didn't play half the season for us, but yet he still got all that money. Now, I know people get hurt and there's injuries involved, but it's hard to discern if they're sitting out for NBA draft status or if they're sitting out because they're truly hurt. and also you're getting paid to be there to play. I sure hope you're not sitting out for NBA draft status when you're being paid by donors from the university that you signed up to be with. I just miss the days of scholarships. I think college kids should be paid, but I mean, make it uniform, make it something standard. This is ridiculous, and it's kind of ruining the game, in my opinion. The competition level is top flight right now. I do think that the level of talent in the league is a lot better. The NCAA is a lot better, but I mean, it's a free for all. It pushes out these schools that just don't have the money, resources, and donors to be able to compete.
Yeah. Well, my take on it is, and I know a lot of people don't agree with this because they say politics doesn't play any role in this. It's either that or it's just because, let's be honest, they don't like the president. But I'm glad the president got involved with the executive order. Not that it's going to hold any weight or actually move anything into effect. But I think what it is going to do is force the NCAA to get off their ass and actually do something about this. And we have got to rein this in a little bit. This 4 years, 4 schools, 5 years, 5 school stuff is absolute insanity. There's got to be some guidelines put into place. Okay, yeah, if your coach leaves, you get a free pass. You can leave. But this thing where I'm going to transfer every year, it's with no penalty of having to sit out a year is just absolutely wild. And I've said this before. I don't even think they're far enough along that conversation to talk about this yet, but there needs to be some sort of standardized contract that all these places use that talk about structure of the payments, frequency of the payments, buyouts if players do want to move outside of the limitations that are set. Let the school be compensated for it. And also if players get there and then they don't play, they need to get their money back, or they shouldn't have to pay the players as well, and not injuries withstanding, but just opting out, like opting out of bowl games. Come on. We're paying you for the whole season, not just the regular season, the whole season. So I'm hoping that, if nothing else, that executive order, whether it holds weight or not, it forces the powers that be to actually do something. And so I disagree that politics don't have a play in this or a say in this, because the people that should have a say in it completely fumbled it to begin with and aren't doing anything about it. I think somebody needs to force their hand.
Well, and let's also expand on that a little bit. I mean, when the executive order that was drafted, Doug, was brought about by some of the leading college football minds and college minds in the game. Nick Saban was at the head of the table on this. So you're getting, it's not just the president's opinion or whatever. He's getting input from people that are some of the greatest of all time, that have been part of the college game for 30 or 40 years.
Yeah, I agree with you. And that's the smart way to do it, too. Hey, I went to the experts on this, as any president should do about any topic. Surround yourself with the people who know it, who can give you an informed decision. And then you use that going forward to hopefully generate and move change forward. So we will see what happens. Definitely going to be fun to monitor, and I hope that they can figure it out and get it right. I know nothing, it's like moving the Titanic or whatever, but hopefully that helps, nudge things in the right direction. Let's move it on to lock it in way too early prediction, especially since, 80% of the teams are now free agents. But who are you looking for to be early contender for next year?
The Louisville Cardinals. No, I mean, that's what I'm looking for. That's what I'm looking for selfishly. UNCW Seahawks. That's who I'm selfishly looking for. But to your point, there's absolutely no way to discern who's going to be the top of college basketball next year. There's zero way. When everybody is looking around for another job, forget looking for another school. They're really looking for another job. Forget the education component. It's all about the money. Who knows? I mean, who knows? In this landscape, you cannot predict who's going to be on top next year. Now, you could look at NIL money available and say, oh, these teams ought to be at the top, but you sure can't put it together based on personnel. There's absolutely no way. Congratulations to Michigan. They dominated the NCAA tournament. They made Arizona look silly. And I mean, the UConn game, they were well in hand. It felt like UConn did narrow it down at the end, but kudos to Michigan on a great season. Dusty May, obviously a great coach. I truly thought he may leave Michigan, but then I got to go to UNC, and then I got to thinking about it. I'm like, why would he leave Michigan though? It's a big school. It's a huge school, and they can afford to keep him around. So kudos to Michigan. Well done, Dusty May. Congratulations.
I mean, when's the last time Michigan won a title? In the 90s? Why would you leave
Well,
somewhere that would build a statue for you to go somewhere where, hey, if you don't win a national title here in the first 3 or 4 years, we're going to replace you with somebody else? I just don't.
well, did you
I think
know?
the era of assuming that because you're a quote unquote blue blood, meaning you can go poach a coach from anywhere else, that's done now. That's over with.
Well, I would like to remind the Wolverine fans out there that the last time they were in the championship game was in 2013, and they faced the mighty Louisville Cardinals, and they suffered a defeat at their hands. So I just want to throw that out there. The last time Michigan was in the championship game, the Louisville Cardinals brought it home.
Well, it's funny also to talk about kind of predicting for next year, and then we'll move on to the next topic. But I was talking with the family at the table the other night. And I was like, they've already got Carolina in the top 10 for next year. And my kids looked at me like, what? What? But that's how this stuff works. I was like, yeah, they're top 10 with no roster. Now, I was kidding. I completely made that up. But that's how farcical these early predictions are, these beginning of the season rankings are. I wish, honestly, in basketball and football, there were no rankings going into the season, and they waited at least a month or 6 weeks before they even started voting, because all it does is unfairly weight historic programs, and it throws off the balance. That's a whole nother discussion. Maybe we can have the conversation at the beginning of football season.
Well, there's no data to go off of. I mean, it's bullshit. So in other words, I mean, I might as well draw names out of a hat. If that's the case. There's absolutely no basis to go off of. To your point, I mean, 80% of the players in the portal just sit down and be quiet for a while and let the things play out. And then you come up with a poll, like you said, a month before the season. I'm good with that. That's the way it should be. Because you have no idea what you're saying. What, Doug? Let me vote. Louisville will be number one.
Right. Well, and not to pile on Carolina, but I think it was 2 years ago, Carolina was number one coming in to the season, AP number one, and then they didn't even make the tournament. Get rid of this stuff. I mean. It's just for talking heads. It's just for website clicks. It's just to generate noise, because the news cycle is 24 hours and you got a lot of shit to fill up, right? So you fill it
That's
with
exactly
what?
Right.
More crap.
Right.
All right, let's move on though. Let's move into due diligence. If rates are staying high or not dropping, why aren't more sellers cutting price? Affordability is still tight, so why aren't sellers moving?
Doug, you're better suited to answer that question as a real estate expert. I personally believe that home values aren't necessarily the problem right now. It is truly interest rates. And I believe that a lot of times I haven't seen sellers lower their prices on their house. Don't get me wrong. I am seeing that from time to time. But I mean, it's still a strong enough market where if your home is priced right, and I think you would agree with this, if you price it right off the bat, you're not going to have a hard time selling it. Are there less buyers in the fray right now? 100%. But at the same time, if a house is priced right, it's going to sell. And I think that's going to stay relevant. Whether the rates are high, low, whatever. It's all about where you price your house. So I don't see a lot of sellers cutting, but I do see it from time to time, recently especially. And how much of a cut is it going to take to make the home affordable for a buyer? I mean, $30,000. If the interest rate is still 2 points higher than where the buyer wants it to be, doesn't matter if you cut it 30 or 40 grand. It's still going to be out of their realm of payment comfortability, if that's a word, out of their comfort level. So. Yeah, that's kind of my take on that, man. I don't know. What say you, real estate experts?
Well, I think it always comes down to pricing it right out of the gate. I mean, reducing it has to happen. I've got to reduce a listing I reduced this morning. It is what it is. It's going to happen. The thing that we try to stress most, and we even had our team meeting this morning talking about listings in particular, was like, you've got to set the right expectation, and you've got to be upfront with the sellers. Too many agents will take a listing knowing it's not priced right and just saying, I'll deal with it later. Now, don't get me wrong. I've taken a listing and I've listed it high. But if I do that, I'm letting the people know up front, this is high. The data doesn't support it. We'll try it your way for a week or so. But at the end of the day, you got to come back to what the data is showing and why you hired me in the first place. And that's to shoot you straight and help disseminate what the market's telling us. So this is what the market's telling us. And, a price cut doesn't mean anything if it's still too high, which is why it's so important to price it right out of the market, which is why it's important to look at the data and trust the data. If it's priced that low, then you're going to get multiple offers. which is going to drive it up likely anyways. So if you do it the right way, you're still going to turn out fine. But the worst thing you can do is overprice it, especially in a market like this, and not listen to your agent and trust what the data says. So it is what it is. Tale as old as time. Tale as old as time. All right, let's get to our episodical gripe session. Always one of my favorite highlights. Fix this. QR codes at restaurants. Man, I don't want to sound like my dad or my mom, but just give me a freaking menu, Ben. Hand me something I can look at. Hand me something I can turn over and flip through. Help me out.
No, I agree with you. I mean, I'm on my phone all day. So when I go to a restaurant, sometimes I like to sit it down on the table and turn it over so I can concentrate on my meeting or not my meeting, but whoever I'm with, right? Whether it's Luke or it's a business meeting or whoever. I don't want to be on my phone, and it's distracting. And also too, like I don't, if I wanted to fumble on my phone for your menu, I would order takeout. You know what I mean? Like when I'm there, I'd like to have it in my hand and be able to look. Yeah. But above that, Doug, it's just like this. If you go to a steak place, okay, say you go, I'm not even going to name names because I don't want to throw people under the bus. But if you go to a chain steakhouse, you end up paying an inordinate amount of money, and the cut of meat is nowhere near the quality that it should be. It's a joke. It's a joke. The prices are outrageous. Maybe they don't want to hand you a menu because they don't want you to get a sticker shock at all the prices out there. But it's just, I mean, going out to dinner, and it's just like if you go to McDonald's, for two people, you could spend $25 or $30. You're almost better off to go sit down and eat somewhere. My thing is, though, if the prices are going to go up, you're going to make me look at a menu off my phone because you're trying to cut costs in printing menus and all that kind of thing. At least have the quality of the food be exemplary. Like, I'm just tired of it. I'm tired of paying more for less. It's garbage. So I agree with you on the menu thing. Like, give me the paper menu or the whatever, the laminated menu, and let me rock. I don't want to look at it on my phone. I've been looking at my phone all freaking day,
I think you make great points, and I'm going to agree with you on all of them. I think it probably started out as a convenience thing, not only maybe for people, but also for the companies. I think it probably evolved into, well, now prices are changing so frequently. We're not having to reprint the menus or all of that on a regular basis. But you make a good point about shrinkflation too. It's across the board now. It's chips in bags that you get at the grocery store. It's cuts of meat that you're getting at the restaurant. All these companies, the restaurants, the producers, they're cutting corners to do one of two things. Either they give you less product for the same amount of money, or they're raising prices to give you the same thing they were giving you before. And I'm not necessarily blaming them, but a lot of companies I am, because you can prove that their prices haven't necessarily gone up, or at least their service or the quality isn't going up, it's going down. So it's just a really tough time right now. And I don't mean to be, I do. This is our gripe piece. So I'm happy with that. That's what we do with this one. But it's like,
we gotta own it, Doug.
Also, at the end of the day, treat your clients the right way. You know what I mean? Treat your clients the right way if you want them to come back. One last thing I'll say, and then we move on to the next topic, but I picked up dinner on the way home last night because Amanda had a work dinner, so it was just me and the boys. I picked up barbecue from a local place, and I did kind of like a combo to get more. And when they brought it out, I was like, this is it for what I paid?
Yeah.
I mean, I was shocked. I was absolutely shocked. It's just like, and I think it's only going to get worse as far as dining out goes. It is no longer just a convenience. It is truly just a luxury right now. And that, I mean, honestly, it even applies to fast food at this point. So it's just, you gotta pick and choose what you're willing to spend your money on. And I think people more and more frequently are opting less to eat out, just because it is a luxury now. It is what it is. All right, let's move on. Counteroffer debate. The Masters starts this week. Ben, I know you're a tennis guy, so you already got the country club thing going on. How about golf? What do you think? Or do you follow it very closely? We haven't really talked about it a lot before. Where are you with the Masters?
I don't follow it a ton just because I have a hard time sitting there watching it all day. I don't personally play golf. I've tried to take lessons, and it just, if I'm not going to, if I play a sport, if I'm not reasonably good at it, I'd rather not do it. And so golf for me, I just never felt comfortable like I was real good at it. But the Masters is absolutely the creme de la creme. It's the grand slam in the tennis world. It's the grand slam of golf, if you will. And it's just such a wonderful, it's like Masters. It signals the beginning of spring. Things getting warm again, getting green, beautiful. As far as players go, I mean, I look this year perhaps for an upset. I don't know who it's going to be, but I look for an upset. I think the Masters is one of those things that it's so prestigious that like an underdog can catch fire, get hot, and just take it to town, win the whole thing. So, I don't know necessarily who's going to win it. I do know that I will tune in to watch the Masters, but I can't sit there for 2 weeks and watch golf. I just can't do it. It doesn't work. It doesn't work that way for me. My attention span is just not there. Either that or I'm going to fall asleep and take a nap while I'm watching it. So, but I certainly will watch the final rounds. I mean, what a great tournament. And I just love the Masters.
Yeah, I just love the history and the story of it all. I mean, like you said, it's the premier event really in golf. So that alone kind of gets the eyeballs on it, kind of like the Derby is for horse racing, kind of like Daytona 500 is for NASCAR. Just kind of the pinnacle event for the sport, or the number one thing. What I think is really funny is talking about how media is different and so available to anybody really to participate in the dialogue. There's a lot of backlash about some of the shows that they're allowing, or some of the personalities that they're allowing to cover the Masters, because they don't quote unquote fit the bill. Some of these, like I think Pat McAfee, they won't even let the guy go, but other shows kind of similar to them, or personalities similar to them, covering it. And some of the outrage is like, people are saying, that's fine and good if you want to do it for the NFL or for whatever. That kind of shtick does not apply and is not wanted in and around the Masters. It's more of a dignified event. We'd like to kind of keep it that way. What are your thoughts on that?
I'm good with that. I think that's awesome. I really do. It's just like Wimbledon. They're talking about doing away with the white dress code. You have to wear all white when you play over in Wimbledon on the grass. They're talking about doing away with that. It's like, what happened to tradition and history? And the Masters doesn't need a circus. It doesn't need a charade. It doesn't need all the stuff that comes with. And I like Pat McAfee doesn't bother me at all. I don't have a problem with him. But a lot of that stuff is a circus. It's a big show. The Masters is its own show. It doesn't need any of that extra stuff. And I applaud them for wanting to keep it traditional, to keep it dignified, and to keep that rich history of such a prestigious tournament alive. Don't go mess it up with all this woke new age bull crap. I'm not into that. Let's keep it simple and dignified and prestigious, because that's part of the allure. That's part of the magic of the Masters. So I don't have time for all the charades. We get enough of that in every other sport. It's like on ESPN, you get the option to watch the on-field people that are down there with microphones commenting on the game. I would rather watch paint dry than watch that. I don't want to hear you run your mouth the whole game. Just shut up. Give me the announcers who announce the game. Let's keep it simple. Let's do away with a lot of the circus, if you will. So kudos to the Masters, and I hope Wimbledon will stay strong on their tradition as well, with leaving the uniform requirement for player attire being in all white. Dude, it's there's no other tournament in the world that does that. Let's keep it prestigious.
I agree with you. It's tradition is tradition for a reason, right? And that's because people have loved it for so long. Let's keep it. And there's plenty of room in sports for the circus, for the loudness, for the yelling, all of that. Give me a safe space from it to try to be funny, right? Give me a place where I don't have to deal with that. All right, let's keep it moving to getting local. Ben, this one I wanted to talk about. What did you do for Easter, and what are your family's Easter traditions?
So we went to Kentucky, Luke and I did. We drove, and every time I drive on the way back home, I always say to myself, I'm never driving this trip again, because it's 696 miles. It takes on a good day 11 hours to get there. So you're driving 22 hours to spend 4 or 5 days up there, and I wouldn't trade it for the world. I had a great time. We had a family health scare with my dad a little bit that caused some commotion. and thank goodness he's okay. He's good. Everything's fine there. But that part of it really kind of threw everything into a tailspin. But we had such a great time. We went to some ball card shows. Luke and I are into sports collectibles, and my dad is as well. So we went to a couple ball card shops, ball card sports shows in Louisville. We also went and saw family, a bunch of my family out in the country, as I call it. I took Luke through some of the back roads and the back valleys, the back hills, if you will. And it was just beautiful. I got to show him a lot of places that are very important to me. And something that was really cool, I want to give a shout out to Nelson County High School, where I graduated from and played football. I got to actually throw the football with Luke on the game field. Like they had it unlocked for us and stuff. So we got to go out and throw the ball. And looking around, like I don't go there very often. I maybe 3 or 4 times a year back home, because my parents come down here and visit us quite often. But just to go back and stand on the 50-yard line, breathe in the air, look around at all the memories I had from 26 years ago is when I graduated. Oh, feels like forever. It sounds like forever too. I guess because it is. But just to experience all that again was so nice. I'm like, dude, how blessed am I? I get to go out here on a field I played on, and I get to throw the ball with my son, who loves football. He's obsessed with it. So for me, it was a very special time. A lot of reconnecting with family, a lot of the scenery, the geography, just, I don't know, that place is very special to me. We also went to my old Kentucky home State Park while we were there. And my old Kentucky home is like the just such a storied and valued mansion in Kentucky. And that state park is beautiful. We went and toured the house. It was excellent. Luke gave it a 10 out of 10. And if that kid will give something educational a 10 out of 10, something that's historic and educational, and they can learn and soak it all in. If he gives it a 10 out of 10, I know you'll give it a 20 out of 20. So it was an excellent time. We had a great time. I drove home yesterday. It took us about 11 and a half hours to get home, and I'm tired, wore out today, but man, I would do it all over again. It was worth it. Being with family, being in my home state. It was wonderful. How about you guys, Doug?
Oh, that's great. I love to hear that you could go home and visit your family and go back to Kentucky. That sounds fantastic. Y'all had a great time. Love to have seen you guys out there whipping around the pigskin, nib high football rules, to quote Billy Madison. Anyways, I think traditions change. Especially if you have kids, and as they get older, for years and years and years, we were always at my parents' house. We'd go to church and then come home and do Easter egg hunt in the backyard. And I mean, we've done that since the boys were this tall up until even last year. And of course, they're super competitive about it, like they are about everything that they do against each other. So that's fun. This year, we actually went to Bald Head Island and had a completely different experience. The weather was great. We got 3 beach days. If you've never been to Bald Head, man, what a just jewel of Eastern North Carolina, just a really different place, awesome place to go. And I think that we've kind of decided as a family that might be our new Easter tradition to start doing every year on spring break, is to just go spend a few days down there, just because we enjoy being down there so much. So it's fun how it evolves, how it changes. But at the end of the day, Easter is really about 2 things. It's about Jesus, like we talked about on the last episode, and how blessed we are that he gave his life for us. And it's also about spending time with your family, right? Those of us who still have family, and we're fortunate enough to be able to do that together. So whatever your traditions are, make the most of them. It's okay if they're not the same every year, but just do it the best you can and make the most out of it. I think that's the most fun part. Anyways, it is for my family. So Ben, for a final walkthrough this week, let's talk about this. Moving on from the Easter conversation, or taking it a little bit further, tell me about those Easter dishes that maybe you remember, maybe your grandparents, your grandma, your mom fixing, that you would have around Easter supper or Easter lunch on Easter Sunday.
So my Memaw, as we call her affectionately, or called her, she passed away 20 years ago. But the Easters at her house were always the best. You were talking about the Easter egg hunts. I had a lot of cousins, so we would do that at her place. We actually went by her old house, and I showed Luke kind of where we would do that stuff, as far as hiding the eggs and all that. But food for Easter, my mom has a recipe book of all of my Memaw's old recipes of stuff she used to fix, and my mom is really done a really nice job of replicating a lot of her old dishes. So it feels like, very, it feels like you're there again. We had some of the best country ham that you'll ever get out of Delaney's store. It's called Old Delaney's, and they have some of the best egg on country ham you'll ever have. I mean, it's like caviar of country ham. We had that. We had some green beans, which I love green beans. We had a Paula Deen recipe, actually, of mac and cheese, which is one of the best mac and cheese recipes you'll ever have. Mom prepared angel biscuits, corn on the cob, just you name it, we had it. And it was just really nice. It's just such a great, I don't know. It was really nice to be back home with everybody. And I know one day that we won't be able to do that, for different reasons. My parents are getting older, and I just want to soak up as much as I can, being a part of that with them. But my mom always makes it very special. She uses a lot of recipes that my mamaw used, and those are just great memories. How about you guys? What was the yacht on Bald Head Island?
Well, isn't it great how food, kind of like music, can take you back to a place in time? It's just one of the really cool things. I remember, almost every Sunday, especially Easter, we would go to my grandma and granddad's house. And of course, we had country ham on Easter Sunday. That was a tradition. And deviled eggs, of course. You got to have some deviled eggs. My grandma had this great potato salad, which I still love potato salad to this day. I love all types of potato salad. I prefer the mustard kind, not the mayonnaise kind, not the German. I love because that's the way my grandma made it. And I still haven't had any like she made, because she had a very unique recipe. And some of her recipes have trickled down. That one didn't. But I still love it. I mean, she used to make sweet pickles too, which I'll never have pickles quite like that. Again, I don't even really eat pickles to this day because those were the only pickles I ever ate. And we would always get like a carrot cake that her cousin would make, because she was the cake lady in the family, So just having that. One tradition that we have started for Easter as far as food is Amanda always makes peep s'mores. So it's your take on s'mores. You've got your chocolate, you've got your marshmallow, you got your graham cracker. But unlike over a fire, you put the chocolate and some cream in a cast iron skillet. You layer it with peeps. You put that bad boy in the oven, and then you bring it out and you dip in it with your graham cracker. Amazing. Just a s'more dip, but you're using the peeps. It's delicious. So that's become our Easter food tradition with my immediate family. And man, we love it. And it's just cool to create those. I'd love for people to tell us in the comments, maybe what's yours. Maybe give us a recipe. Give us something else that we can try. You're never going to hurt our feelings if you share food with us. That's for sure.
We may love you forever.
There you go. All right, let's move it into closing time, because here we are again, buddy, at the end of the week. What's something you're looking for this week? What domino are you waiting to drop? What are you thinking about? What are you paying most attention to this week?
Well, I'm back to the markets. I'm back to the markets. I'm back to oil, things like that. I'm back to seeing what happens with the ceasefire, with the Strait of Hormuz. I mean, it just sucks that, something that on the other side of the world is having a direct impact on myself and my clients and my workforce. Like, I mean, I don't know. It bums me out a bit, but I'm going to keep up with those numbers, just seeing, where we're at. Also, want to keep up with market data from real estate experts like yourself, Doug, giving me insight on what days of market are looking like, what you're seeing as far as buyers' wants and needs. I want to kind of, you and I probably catch up later in the next day or so about some of that stuff, just so I can kind of get a gauge of what's going on and best serve my clients as a result. So just trying to keep an eye on all the data that's relevant to us and relevant to our wonderful folks that we are so grateful to be able to serve on a daily basis.
Well, thanks for sharing that. I'm going to go outside of the work stuff for a bit. Obviously, I'm going to be paying attention to that too, and we'll be talking. I'm watching the NBA. Hornets have 2 games left. We're really in the playoff stretch here, or not the playoff stretch, but to figure out where they're going to figure or land in the playoffs. They kind of blew their chance by losing to the 76ers last week and the Celtics the other night. It looks like they're definitely have missed their opportunity to not be in the play-in bracket, but at least they're going to be in the play-in bracket. Now we're hoping they can get an 8 seed instead of the 9 seed, so they only have to win 1 game versus 2 games to get into the actual playoff. So we'll see what happens. They've got 2 tough games left. The Pistons and then the Knicks, and then we'll see what happens. So that's what I'll be paying attention to sports wise. And then hopefully next week we can talk about where that all lines up and maybe actually looking at the actual playoffs. So that's what I'll be looking at. But until that time and until next week, I want to say thanks again to our presenting sponsors, Lend with Ben and Cornerstone Home Lending and the Ocean Air Realty. Please like, please subscribe, please share, please comment. Let us know what you think about the closing table. Until next week, Ben, this has been the closing table. I'll see you then, brother.
Y'all take care. Have a great one.